Good morning, everyone. Let me first thank you, the European Centre of Law and Justice, for me to be here today, but I also would like to thank you for coming and listening to us. I will try to make you reflect on some of the issues donor conception and surrogacy can cause upon those who are conceived or created that way. My name is Stephanie, I'm 39 years old, and I'm a donor conceived from Belgium. My mother desperately wanted to have children. My father was infertile, and they ended up in the private practice of one of the first Belgian fertility doctors, who discovered that a lot of money can be made out of this despair from adults longing for at least half a child, biological child of their own. In my country, donor conception is practiced since the early 50s. Surrogacy is practiced since 2003. My parents got one of the first package deals of the industry. They paid a fixed price for the continuous trying to get my mother pregnant with the sperm of an unknown man. A man who supposedly would resemble my social father, so that an illusion could be projected and it would be less awkward for everyone. My mother needed to take hormones and she got inseminated with sperm, and in January 1979 she gave birth to a set of triplets. Let me allow to introduce to you my siblings. To the left there's my sister Sophie. In the middle, that's my brother Bernard, and to the right, that's me. My parents got the advice never to tell the truth. Pretending became a new form of parenting. Nevertheless, I always felt that something didn't add up in the family that I grew up in, because I had nothing in common with the man I used to call my father. Yet, like any innocent child, I yearned for his attention and his affection and his love, but I never seemed to meet up to his and his family's expectations. At the age of 25, we discovered that we were donor conceived. At first, I thought it was a bad joke, because firstly, how could the two adults, the person that I trusted the most in my life, were able to withhold fundamental information from me, not only from me, but also from my siblings, and lied to us? Secondly, how could a doctor enable such kind of practice merely out of financial gain and a bit of fame? And thirdly, the other part is, how could somebody part from their own flesh and blood and abandon them and by giving them away to complete strangers? So I went to an identity crisis at the age of 25. For over 25 years, I had reflected myself upon a man and a family I didn't descend from. So from a false identity, I went to half of an identity, but I was instantly curious to know who my actual biological father was. It's strange to realize that there's somebody out there to whom I share the half of my being with, someone that exists because I exist, but I'm not allowed, or he and I are not allowed to know one another. And the same goes for the 100 siblings I could have spread over all the global and the world. So me and my sister, we started our search, but we were instantly blocked. We weren't allowed, files were destroyed, and many told us that we just needed to be very grateful to be alive and keep quiet. And for a while we did keep quiet, but there's always a point of no return. And for me, my point of no return was when I became a mother. And I'm going to show you a picture, because for me this picture makes the invisible visible and makes the missing part undeniable. And this is a picture, and to the left on top, the black and white picture, is a picture of my husband when he was a little child. The picture to the right of him is a picture of our daughter. The picture underneath our daughter is a picture of me when I was little, and to the left of me, there's a picture of our son. So it's kind of like being able for me to reflect for the first time in my life in another human being made me also realize that my heritage and my ancestry matter. And it's a fundamental part of someone's identity. This shouldn't be up for a debate. Knowing the family where you come from is important for anyone. Even the same goes for having access to your full medical information, history, because I'm not allowed to know my full medical history. Is important, so why shouldn't it be, or isn't it automatically granted for donor-conceived or children born out of surrogacy. If we are not granted that fundamental basic right, we are just commodities, enabling adults to create restricted frames or families, as they call it. We need to realize that it goes at the expense, the welfare, the interests of current and future generations. The implication upon us, the children, are much too big to ignore or to deny any longer. In my country, in 2012, there was nothing for donor-conceived, so I started an organization enabling donor-conceived to connect, but I also reached out to parents, to donors, to doctors, also, the good ones, not the bad ones. And I did a lot of research on the industry, the legislation, the lack of regulation, and I got connected with independent specialists like professors in ethics, geneticists, lawyers, good politicians. And my country is on the verge of realizing that the current legislation not only discriminates, but also fundamentally harms the humans it tends to create. But it's a fierce fight, because we're fighting against the multi-million-dollar fertility industry. Most of the governmental organizations that get funding and should advocate for the rights of all children lack commitment, but also the guts to represent us correctly. Not wanting to wait anymore for everybody else to do their jobs, we took our fate in our own hands and our right as well. So in May 2017, a first European donor conceived, succeeding in tracing her unknown, anonymous biological father. And I'm also going to present her to you. This is Amy Stikkelman. She's a donor conceived from the Netherlands. She was able to find her biological father through DNA testing with international DNA databanks. Because you see, the key in finding our unknown biological family lies in our DNA, and we've got plenty of it. Amy had a DNA with a distant cousin. She knew that it was a match on her father's side, so she started to build the family tree of the distant cousin, the DNA match, and she was able to figure out in which branch of the family tree the father was hanging in. With other 5 donor-conceived, Amy founded an organization called the Donor Detectives. 4 donor-conceived come from the Netherlands, 2 come from Belgium, and I'm one of them. We're a non-profit organization. We do this in our spare time, and we work pretty hard. But we try to help and to inform as many people as we can, enabling them to tracing their unknown biological family. And that goes for donor-conceived, but we also get questions of donors. We get questions of the legal children of donors who are also having an interest in being able to track down their half-siblings, those who know that their fathers or their mothers donated sperm or eggs. But I also have requests from grandparents looking for their unknown biological grandchildren. So far, we were able to help 156 donor-conceived to find another half-sibling, and 23 donor-conceived were able to find or trace their unknown biological parents. The numbers are clean-cut, but behind them there are stories of great complexity, disenchanted grief, and deeply affected lives. Donor-conceived have to deal with all of this on our own with no professional help, because those responsible are getting a free pass in accountability. DNA doesn't lie and provides us finally with answers, but we're also uncovering the actual lack in morality and ethics of the industry. For example, limitations in the amount of siblings that were created with the same sperm or the eggs are not limitless. So you have a maximum, but they're oversee. Sperm or eggs of unhealthy person are being used to conceive people, but there's also the cases of fertility doctors who are using their own sperm. So donor-conceived are now finding out, some donor-conceived are now finding out that the man that filled the cup was the doctor himself. These findings, all these findings, also add up to the collateral damage that donor conception and surrogacy causes. And I will now go to my bit of my personal story. I uncovered through DNA testing that my sister has another biological father than me. So I'm going to try and make you drop, that the penny will drop. I told you that I was part of a triplet, so why could it be possible that we have different fathers? It's simply due to the fact that the fertility used a cocktail of different sperm samples. He thought it was a good idea. He didn't inform my parents about it. And for me, it proves that he couldn't care less how it would affect us, the children. And I really think that our integrity and our dignity are being violated and have been violated. And it's also very complex because now we're on the hunt for two different men. I have also a call of action to make for those who are here today. I urge you, policymakers, to take your responsibility and begin to realize that by allowing and facilitating the mass production of children without considering and protecting their fundamental basic rights, interest and welfare, we as a society, we fail short. And I also want to urge you in trying to fund donor-conceived organizations, or at least give us a voice or a correct seat at the table when our interests are being discussed. You should owe them that much. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Remakers.